Hello everyone, and welcome back to the PEX News channel. Big news today from the international trade arena, and it could have massive implications for global markets, diplomacy, and the fragile balance of power. U.S. President Donald Trump has just announced a bold new tariff policy targeting multiple countries, with India right at the center of the action. This includes a 25% tariff on Indian goods and an additional penalty tied to India's purchase of Russian oil. That's right. The United States is taking aim at one of its key allies in the Indo-Pacific region, citing both economic imbalances and geopolitical concerns. Let's break down what happened, what it means, and why this matters to both sides of the world. On Wednesday, Donald Trump unveiled a sweeping package of new trade measures. The most eye-catching was his move to impose a 25% tariff on all Indian imports, a significant escalation in trade tensions between the two nations. But that wasn't all. He also said India would face additional penalties due to its continued purchase of Russian oil and military hardware. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Trump stated that while India is our friend, he believes, its tariffs on U.S. goods are far too high. He also argued that India's business dealings with Russia are indirectly supporting Moscow's war in Ukraine, adding, India buys military equipment and oil from Russia, enabling their war machine. These new tariffs are set to go into effect this Friday, forming the cornerstone of what Trump is calling a revised global tariff regime, one that his team says will protect American workers, revive domestic industry, and punish what he sees as unfair trade practices. Unsurprisingly, New Delhi isn't taking this lightly. India's Ministry of Commerce issued a statement saying it is studying the implications of Trump's announcement and reiterated its commitment to achieving a, quote, fair, balanced, and mutually beneficial trade agreement with the United States. The two countries have already held 5 rounds of trade talks in recent months, aiming to double bilateral trade to $500 billion by 2030. But this latest move could severely complicate those efforts. India has long resisted U.S. pressure to cut ties with Russia, especially when it comes to energy. Russian oil plays a crucial role in India's energy strategy, helping to keep prices down for its massive population. Trump's punitive stance could now put India in a tough spot. Choose between economic partnership with the U.S. or strategic energy independence through Russia. But India wasn't the only country hit. Trump also signed a flurry of executive orders targeting other nations and commodities. Copper imports will now face a staggering 50% tariff. Brazil will also be hit with a 50% import tax, justified by what Trump called the country's unjust prosecution of former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro and its alleged mistreatment of U.S. tech companies. South Korea narrowly avoided a 25% tariff, settling instead at 15%, thanks to a new deal involving $100 billion in energy purchases and $350 billion in U.S.-controlled investments. Trump also closed a major tariff loophole that allowed low-value foreign shipments under $800, mainly from China, to enter the U.S. duty-free. That loophole, known as the de minimis rule, is now officially sealed. Additionally, Trump teased a new agreement with Pakistan for developing its domestic oil reserves, a move that could further shift the geopolitical chessboard. So why is Trump doing all this? In short, he sees tariffs as leverage. Tools to renegotiate trade relationships, protect American industries, and reduce the ballooning trade deficit. According to the Census Bureau, the U.S. ran a $45.8 billion goods trade deficit with India last year alone. Trump has long said that's unsustainable, and now he's taking action. Behind the scenes, National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett and U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer are working out the final penalty numbers for India's Russia-related oil trade, with details expected soon. But there's more. Tariff revenues are also part of how Trump aims to offset the revenue losses from his income tax cuts. His broader strategy ties into boosting domestic manufacturing jobs and shifting global supply chains back to American soil. However, not everyone's convinced. Economists across the board are warning that these aggressive tariff moves could actually hurt U.S. economic growth. Why? Because higher import taxes mean higher costs for American businesses and consumers. That leads to inflation and potentially slower economic activity. There's also a question of retaliation. Countries hit by U.S. tariffs might impose their own, putting American exporters at risk. That's especially true for key sectors like agriculture, aviation, and technology. India, for example, could redirect trade toward Vietnam, Bangladesh, or even China if the U.S. becomes too expensive or unpredictable. Ajay Sahai, Director General of the Federation of Indian Export Organizations, put it this way: "We are back to square one. Trump hasn't spelled out the penalties, but demand for Indian goods is bound to be hit." European pushback and global tensions. Trump's actions are also causing unease in Europe. After imposing a 15% tariff on long-standing allies in the EU, several European leaders voiced their disapproval. French President Emmanuel Macron said in a cabinet meeting, quote, "Europe does not see itself sufficiently as a global power." He added, "To be free, you have to be feared. There is greater urgency than ever to accelerate the European agenda for sovereignty and competitiveness." This kind of rhetoric signals a possible drift away from U.S. leadership as Europe seeks to chart its own course on the world stage, possibly in partnership with countries like India. Here's where it gets even more complex. Washington has been trying to strengthen its alliance with India, seeing New Delhi as a counterweight to China. Both countries have common interests in maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific region, and India's population, now the largest in the world at over 1.4 billion, makes it a key partner in both strategic and economic terms. Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi have previously cultivated a close relationship. During Trump's February visit to India, the two leaders signed energy deals, and Trump promised to sell more oil and natural gas to the country. Now these tariffs risk undermining that partnership. They also threaten to derail the momentum toward a comprehensive bilateral trade deal, especially with sensitive sectors like agriculture and dairy still unresolved. These industries are critical to India's economy, employing hundreds of millions. With the new tariffs set to kick in on Friday, all eyes are on India's next move. Will it retaliate? Will it double down on its Russian ties? Or will it compromise to keep the U.S. market open? One thing's for sure, this isn't just about taxes on goods. This is about global influence, national strategy, and the changing shape of world power in the 21st century. So what's your take? Are these tariffs a brilliant negotiating tool, or a step toward greater global tension and economic instability? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. And if you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our next deep dive into global affairs. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.